Alrighty, everybody. Are you guys ready? I'm hyped for this one. I hope you guys are hyped for this one. So tonight we're having ThaDJ versus Erix33. Both of these racers seated next to each other in the tournament. Both of these racers with extremely close PBs and have been PBing recently. That obviously makes for a good mix. So thank you all for showing up once again to support the tournament. And I am going to get our co-commentator in. I'm actually going to be commentating this race tonight, but I'm going to get my co-commentator in here. Hello, Turkey. How are you doing tonight?
How's it going, bud? Doing all right, so?
Doing well, thank you. I don't know about you, I was just saying to the chat here momentarily before I brought you in, I am super hyped for this race with how close these racers are in PB and how they've both PB'd recently and have both been playing. I am just super excited for this one.
That is very true indeed. For what I've seen, if I'm not mistaken, both of them, as you said, they're both PB'd recently. You believe Erix currently holds a PB somewhere in the mid-105s. DJ, I believe, has a 103 or 102, give or take. So PBs are relatively close in the world of Cyber Shadow. A couple of minutes is really nothing. As you will see through the course of this run, quite a difficult run to take place. Not easy to save time, very easy to lose it. So we'll see how it all goes, and hopefully our runners get through in good pace, good times, and hopefully not destroying or cracking any controllers. But it should all be good fun.
Alrighty. So I'm just checking with our racers. Both seem good to go here, so I'm going to drop out of our race and we'll get things kicked off.
Righto then. So let's crack it on. I am TKY, and I believe Strozzy is joining me for commentary on this one.
I am. We are going to be the dynamic duo of the night.
Oh, let me guess, I'm Robin. Oh, well, that's fine. So, welcome to the world of Cyber Shadow, doing the 80% run. Pretty much, this run a game of two halves. The front half, release stage 1 through to 5, is mostly technical platforming, just knowing the elements, enemy positions as such. And there's going to be a number of cycle-based tank methodology, and a couple of other bits and pieces that we use just to nip bits of time off as the runners progress. So, pretty much to get straight out the gate, I've just got this little opening bit. Nothing much to go through really, just moving forward. Just going to get their health up. Each of the containers there will contain a bit of health. I'll just start them off before they actually reach the beginning of chapter 1. And just going to quickly hit the switch, make their way up, and we will officially begin the run more effectively.
I think my favorite part about this first little thing, and I think we all just like bypass this now because it's like the first 30 seconds of the run and none of us are even thinking about it, is it's actually a really great little tutorial section that's not a tutorial directly. Like, it just teaches you the basics of the switch, and it just gets you used to the jump momentum, the fact that there's like platforms that you can drop through. There's actually a lot going on in that first 30 seconds that I think we all just totally take for granted these days.
That is very true. When you've done it a number of times, you kind of just forget about all the little nuances, and it just sort of becomes a little autopilot with something pretty much straight off the bat and straight out the gates. But with that being said, into chapter 1, as I mentioned, is mostly technical platforming going through, as well as a couple of cycle-based things. Well, the first thing I'll be aiming to do is to take advantage of stunt or tank damaging, like some old school, or this is a throwback to old school gaming of the 80s and the 90s. Of hard difficulty, and while quite traditional tropes of those days was not back. So turning around at the last moment and taking the damage just knocks you backwards and gives you enough forward momentum to be able to get through without taking a secondary hit. And then plugging on, another little bit of thing that they did do in the first part is ledge boosting. If you jump at the very last moment of the ledge, you can knock yourself forward by about 3 frames. Very, very small, paltry amount of time, but over the course of a run, it can save a couple of seconds. So yeah, just small little bits of tech that they can use to take advantage of. More so with the tank damage, because those big brute enemies can take at least 5 or 6 hits to take down, and that can knock off just a couple of seconds in general. As a first instance of just meeting cycles, very small aspect of it, just reaching up to that first bit of platform and then just following the rest on as they will approach their opening stage boss or mid-stage boss, the Smasher. And again, Smasher's pretty straightforward. So you've only got your sword really, so the idea is just pretty much, whether you just do not stand underneath him, because if he crushes you, that's an instant death. And then just jump off and keep slashing his orb in the center. Ideally, they want to take them down in at least 2 rounds. And that's a good one on Eric's side, and DJ just following up behind. Good start from both runners.
I'm not gonna lie, I've never gotten crushed by the Smasher. I did not know that was an instant kill if you got smashed by it. I mean, it makes sense, but like it never actually happened to me, so I didn't know that.
I wish I could say the same. Unfortunately, I have had the unfortunates of being caught by it, but it's just another one of the little things that you learn as you go. Moving on to the next part, this is our first major instance of cycle-based platforming. This room actually has 3 cycles that the runners are looking to best. On DJ's side, just coming up and just met the first cycle there on that rotating platform. So he's on to meet up with the secondary cycle, which he has done successfully, so he can meet that single tile or that single platform rotatory. And that leads on to the third one, which is a little trickier because the idea is to turn around and take a tank hit at the right moment. If you happen to mistime it, you could easily get knocked into the pit underneath. Unfortunately, DJ did take a couple of hits leading to it, so taking the safer pathway and going underneath.
Yeah, Eric's unfortunately got bullied by the bug. Was on the same cycle, but nice little ledge grab there by DJ. Unfortunately, couldn't make anything out of it, but yeah, Eric's got bullied by the bug. Was unfortunately on the same cycle, but as a result, DJ is gonna be the first to reach our cutscene.
Indeed, and yeah, he got a ledge grab there, which is part of beating a cycle on that. Unfortunately, just couldn't quite reach the next platform. It's a little bit of a technique that you can use on a 60 hertz run, where you're able to, even if you're just a little under the ledge, you could just turn into it and it will just clip on. In the meantime, though, we have our first stage boss, the Apparator. Ideally, you want to look at getting it a bit closer, at least his first projectile misses you. After that, you could just take the first hit, move forward a bit, take another one, follow him through, and if everything goes smoothly, you can take him out in one round at the peak of his first jump. But fortunately, if not, there is a way to be able to just about clip his toes, which nicely done by DJ, and Eric's just following right behind with a nice clip of the toes there. Good fights on both parts and a good start to the session for both.
It was basically equal fights. DJ had, I think, one more slash left when Apparator jumped up, but side by side, pretty much almost the same fight.
Yeah, but it was executed well on both sides. They get their first upgrade, the Shuriken. This allows them to have access to their SP meter, the blue meter underneath their health. And as applied the Shuriken, you can throw a Shuriken. Might sound simple, but this becomes very useful within a number of parts of Chapter 2, which opens up in trying to meet these cycles once again. DJ is going to opt to take the SP upgrade, so I'll give him 1 extra SP through the course of the run. And most runners tend to go for that one. There's only like a handful of runners that will choose to ignore it. It costs a small amount of time, about 6 seconds, but gives them just that added luxury of that 1 extra SP, which actually could become very useful and important in the later stages of the run. Otherwise, so far, so good going through Chapter 2, as we'll be leading into probably one of my most hated parts of the run, the bug room. So the idea is smash the hell out of this bug pod. The problem is, the more times you hit it, the more tiny little bugs it spews out, and they are the ones that can be a right hassle. Plus, there is a small amount of RNG in terms of how many hits the big bug takes after it gets out of its pod. It could take anywhere from 3 to 5 strikes, DJ getting a 4-strike bug. So, at the average standard that you'd generally expect. Eric's now dealing with his bug. Taking a few hits, but keeping himself going. I think he may have got the 5, unfortunately, there, it looked like on my end. But, okay, he's opted to take a bit of a safety. That would have been an intentional death on his part. As it turns out, if you are low health and you want to get your health back up, taking that death and just going forward straight away, it's roughly about the same amount of time as just continuing. So it's a good, smart bit of strategy on his part. Unfortunately, during that, DJ did get a bit caught up in the laser skip. So, unfortunately, he got knocked back to the last checkpoint. This time taking it a little bit safer, making sure he gets by without incident. And looking good. And both runners keeping up with each other at a good pace as they both approach our next boss. Throughout the run as well, they've been picking up Essence, which is this game's currency. And at each of the checkpoints, you can unlock certain things. In this checkpoint, they choose to go for the Blade Extend. It just extends the blade out just a small amount. However, when it comes to this boss of the Laser Brain, It allows you to get that one additional strike in. There's also the factor that Laser Brain himself is one of the only bosses in the run that actually has a weak point in its nucleus in the eye of the center. If you can catch that, you can get 2 points of damage, and with the Blade Extend, you could, if done accurately, you can actually hit that twice in each jump. So it could cause heavy damage to him. But nice fights on both parts, both getting through without incident. And we're just moving on to a nice little calm section of the elevator. We can have our first little auto-scroller going. And I'm going to calm down a bit, and actually let's try to do some commentary, because I'm kind of leaving him out here. Sorry about that.
No worries. There's a neat little nuance, too, about the Laser Brain fight, and it tags into what you mentioned about the weakness. It's the fact that there's like a little bit of an extra animation where it's like an extra like slash that appears over the middle of the eye if you happen to get that weak point and that extra damage. It's definitely something that I feel like stage 2 front to back as a whole is very, very tight, and like it's complex. There's a lot of layers to stage 2. There's a lot of different strats that you're using from start to finish. There's a lot of, you know, shuriken throws. There's a lot of, you know, take the D boost or avoid this damage. Laser Brain can go off the rail sometimes and create a little bit of havoc. At any point in time, you can take an unfortunate dive into any set of these spikes. It's so strange because like stage 1 is all about the cycles, and it can be strenuous because of trying to make those platform cycles. And then stage 2, you follow up immediately with like, all right, do all of this very technical platforming. Like you're trying to do some spots where you're avoiding these lasers, you're avoiding these pods with these bugs that spawn 2 more bugs. You're trying to avoid all these like pockets of poison that are coming out of the walls and that these machines create. There's just a lot going on and a lot that can go wrong here. And then you're going to come up to the room that you're going to see our runners come up to in a quick moment, which is aptly the trash room. And it's just this trash pile that sometimes the lasers will get out of hand and seem to snipe a couple extra trash boxes on you, and all of a sudden you feel like you're waiting an extra 15 seconds.
Indeed, because the execution of this room as well in general is to meet the cycle specifically for this trash elevator. Missing each cycle could cost around 5 seconds, give or take. But that's what you're trying to plow through the room for, to try and meet the best cycle you can there as we enter the Scrambler. Now, Scrambler, again, he's in terms of your technical aspects, he's quite a straightforward fight to understand. You ideally want to stay close as possible to him. By going out of distance, it will alter the script that he plays. However, if you just go straight in close, he will always follow the exact same script no matter what. So you can use that to your advantage. Both runners executing the fight very nicely, though. As he's getting close, get the damage in. Sometimes you opt to take a tank. Sometimes you try and manipulate your jump and swipes in order to avoid damage whilst maximising sword slashes. Fortunately, out of all the boss fights, this is one of the fights that doesn't generally cost you too much time if you choose to take the tank damages. So it's all good, realistically. And they get their second upgrade, the Rising Fire. So it's an upward slash. If you've got no SP, it will just be an upward slash. If you have SP, it happens to fire off a couple of fire projectiles, which can prove useful in a number of spots as we now enter Chapter 3. More or less similar, but except this is now with putting into practice pretty much everything you've learned from both Chapters 1 and 2 in terms of both what the game teaches you as well as what you can learn as a speedrunner. Combining cycles, tank methods, ledge grabs, the works, and it's a nice fun stage to execute. It's a nice first step up the ladder of difficulty. But the run as a whole is just a general difficult hell. So you're going to die when you start doing this game. And the more you get used to it, the more you can kind of survive it. Alright, so Tank City or Tank Subway for DJ now, and Eric's just following behind. As in told by the name, you're just tanking through these bigger enemies. A bit like the enemies in the first stage, they take quite a few hits to take down, so it just becomes much quicker and efficient to just tank the damage and just plow forward. No problem from DJ's side. Eric's following on as well, looking perfectly fine on his end as well. So both runners executed so far very well and keeping up. Nice double ledge grab on DJ's side.
Opted out of the health, which I don't. But both of them opting out of the health, actually. Both of them had 2 health coming into this ledge grab section here, and that shining box that both of them skipped on that second ledge, you can even like hit it and then grab it without even committing to standing on the ledge, but both of them decided to just forge ahead. There's the checkpoint, obviously not that far ahead, but playing it dangerous on race day.
Indeed, it's more of a risk-reward type thing. The checkpoint being far, it also helps. Maybe if you choose to leave it out, you can just keep your forward momentum going. You know what you're doing, where you're manoeuvring. But if you do happen to need a bit of help, or you want to play it a little safe, it is there just to top yourself off. And brave on both runners' part to just choose to just outright skip it, because one little nick there would have sent them right back to the last checkpoint, which would have been a bit costly in terms of time. DJ making his climb up. We've got these nice hovering robots here. Nice to have a bit of magic or SP at this point, just to be able to snipe them out with the shurikens. Just gets them completely out of the way and less hassle to deal with. And we'll have this stage's mid-stage boss in the form of a battle tank, or as I like to call it, the Mecha Tank, because I always forget its actual name. It's something tank, so I'm halfway there.
I also actually call it the Mecha Tank, and was very, very regularly calling it that for a while, and then wait a minute, that's not actually the name of it.
Well, at least I'm not alone, so I can be happy with that. And a good fight on DJ's side for that. We'll touch on it now as Erix approaches. So, two parts to this fight. You got the head of the tank there, which is just hiding the main core. They just need to constantly hit that to bust out the core. At the same time, everyone's looking to hit the turrets on the floor just to put them back into the ground, so it just puts less projectiles on the screen and less to worry about. A nice fight on Eric's side as well, as you just beat on the central core, and the tank goes goodbye. Okay, so DJ moving on, and he's going to be coming up to what we know as the snipe. A couple more of the big floaty guys that are going to be in the air. Although it's not necessary, it's ideal if you can throw that shuriken at the right angle. It's tighter than it looks, and you can get that snipe, and that just intentionally makes that second enemy fall in suit, so you can jump and snipe him out of the air as well. So you can just continue ploughing forward. Otherwise, you've got to deal with them showering a rain of bullets down, and that can be a nightmare at times, especially if one happens to knock you back into the pit. Erix's turn to do the snipe, and that's looking good. Very well executed there. Bang, and he's good, and he's going to get through that without any hassle. As I say, both of us are keeping up at a very good pace so far with each other and with the time in general.
Yeah, I think we had a couple of moments from each where they maybe were finding their footing. Maybe those race nerves were kicking in, but now that both of them are moving ahead at a steady pace, you can kind of see everyone settled. And as you mentioned, they're pretty close. It's basically the tank mini boss duration is the difference of time right now, and how far Erix is behind. So that can change in an instant. Like, that is a one reasonable death scenario can shift this lead, and that's the type of game that Cyber Shadow is front to back. Is like, throughout this entire race, we're going to be met with moments that could just change exactly what we're seeing and what we're commentating on.
Exactly that. We're now dealing with boss 3 on DJ's side, the Biohunter. As you notice, he's purchased his next little item there with the Swag Blade, one of my personal favourites. Mainly because in the first phase, he spends most of his time in the air. So you want that Swag Blade to just cause heavy damage at the start. And ideally, you're getting down to a certain point, you'll start to fly away. You'd like to get a few more strikes in as well with that, just so you bring his health down low enough so when it comes to the second half of the fight, you're able to ultimately keep him in the center and just finish the fight off there. And he almost got away from Erix there, but Erix managed to manipulate the Swag Blade just right to keep him out of field. Now going to the second phase now, where DJ was able to execute the fight very well. He did get away from him slightly, but Erix outright destroys the Biohunter in the center. That was a real nice fight. He almost got away in phase 1, but kept it under control and then just showed him who the boss is. As he gets his next upgrade, the Airstrike. Another personal favorite. This is essentially a pogo. Without SP, it's exactly that, a pogo. But with it, it becomes a bit of an explosive, and will have sort of like an explosive after effect, doing multiple hits at once. DJ going off to the dojo section though as we speak, and you may have heard a little bit of an explosion there, because there's a bomb right at the top of the screen where you usually exit out, and this is why they also carry the Swag Blade to this point of the run. So they can use that to destroy the bomb early, saves a couple of seconds, 3 to 4 seconds, of not having to hit the bomb and then just wait by the door, as he now has the Monkey Dojo scene there. So these are basically like training grounds to sort of like test your will, test your courage type things, so you can earn yourself an upgrade, and you're literally erasing a blue monkey and make your way up to the top. Nice hit there on the one candlestick, as I call them these days, to get up just that bit quicker. Gets there no problem and outright defeats the monkey. So he'll be rewarded with his next upgrade, the wall climb. I forget what it's actually called. Wall slide, sorry. It's basically a wall climb, but it allows you to stick to walls and kick off of them. So a traditional ninja trope for these type of games. And that's going to come into play as he'll be making his way over to chapter 4. In the meantime, Eric's going through. Ooh, just got away from that. Almost had the Swag Blade take out the crate just before he had the opportunity to get up there. But unfortunately, another crate did get taken out, but he played that beautifully, got the back up, no problem, and he's up and about to get his wall slide as we go into chapter 4. Now, chapter 3 starts to test you out with what you've already learned. This is where, even though the run so far is still hard, this is where it really starts to ramp up. Enemies are going to hit harder, there's going to be more of them, they're going to be a little more unpredictable, and it's also home with one of the more RNG bosses, well, probably the one and only RNG boss that's really in this run. Although the RNG isn't terrible, to be fair, but it's enough to notice.
You know, I thought DJ was going to go for the Death Warp there, just because they'd taken a little bit of damage and they'd lost the Swag Blade. You'll see our runners in this section will kind of demonstrate how hard sniping with those shurikens can be with these little switches. And of course, the dragon heads that just are in front of the switches can spoil your day at any given time. They decide to just move upwards in front of that projectile and be like, nope, you're denied. See if Eric's here has a chance. Is just going to go under and just hit the other one normally. Oh, and assisted by the Swag Blade, actually.
Yeah, sometimes the Swag Blade can be a little unpredictable. I mean, like anything else, it can be manipulated in a way where you can control exactly where it's going to be, but that takes time and prep. Other times it just flails on its own and you just deal with it. Sometimes it works out in your favor, other times it can kind of haunt you. But he gets the Swag Blade to this point, which is where he wants to, just to take out that enemy just a little bit quicker on Eric's side. So he'll be able to progress on. And that's pretty much the Swag Blade done for him. Although he's still got full damage. If you notice next to the Swag Blade in the top left, there's these 3 little markers. With any sub weapon that they pick up, they have 3 markers at the start. Indicates how many hits you can take before you lose said sub weapon. So having all 3 on, he can keep this blade for longer, and we'll be interested to see what kind of methods or strategies he may employ with it, given the fact that he still has it in tow.
All right, well, 3 very quick hits, and that one is on you. That's our first one of the night.
It's not a death. I'll live with that. Okay, good. All right, so DJ plowing his way through, doing so well so far. Unfortunately, didn't get to talk about one little thing that Eric is now in. Is his little cyber sections. There's only a couple in the 80% run that we actually employ, but pretty much it's just a little test of going into cyberspace to be able to unlock doors. And unfortunately, with this one, for some reason, once you hit the first switch, you're supposed to hit a second switch, which will complete the section. But you hit the first one, the door just opens. I couldn't tell you why. It just does.
We should really actually ask Mecha about that one day. Out of just curiosity, I want to know. Like, it's just the type of person that I am. My brain is like, why?
Well, you're free to do so, but I swear if he patches it out, it's on you.
He's actually been really great about saying he's not going to release any slower versions for speedrunners, so I don't know if he's necessarily going to patch something like that out, but we should shout out Mecha. Has been very good and very transparent about kind of the intentions behind the game and with the speedrun community, which has been awesome.
That is very true, to be fair. He's been very communicative, and he's been keeping the run as speed friendly as he can. He hasn't took anything out that would destroy a speed run per se, so very grateful for that as speedrunners. It's always nice to have that kind of support. Eric's getting a little bit caught up in one of the tighter cycle rooms. Saw DJ earlier get it, where you just catch down the side of that one rotating pillar of enemies and just go down the side. It looks all scary. It's not as bad as it looks, but it can be butt clenching at times, for sure. So Eric's just getting through as best as he can, keeping an eye on where the platforms are at that given moment, so he could play it as he says fit and set himself up for the final stretch of that room. DJ just a room ahead essentially. Just pushing on into the final room before reaching this stage's sub-bossish. If you ask me, I think they got it the wrong way round. I think this should be the final boss of this stage. But, oh well, I digress. So, we're going to be coming up to, as mentioned at the start, one of the most, if not the most RNG boss of this run in the Mecha Dragon. So, Mecha Dragon, there's only a couple of things that you can do in terms of the RNG. It'll depend on which side he chooses to come into, which of one of two attacks he will do after exiting the field. And then there's the RNG of these propellers in the sky that you use for your footing, so you can actually start dealing heavy damage to exactly where they're going to be. And if certain combinations happen, you won't be able to score as much damage, which is unfortunate. But it is what it is. The RNG isn't as bad as certain other games and runs that can be a thing, but in the success of this game, where it's mostly executional, it stands out quite a bit as the RNG part of the run. Yeah, unfortunately, just having a bit of awkwardness on DJ's side for the platform there, having to go into a 4th round. Oof. But it looks like he should be in good spot to finish it off here. So, a quick 4-rounder, not bad. Most runners would like to at least aim for a 3-rounder, but as we say, given certain RNG elements, it's just one of those things that could happen. So being able to get it down in 4 is respectable. And Erix33 is going to be having his attempt at the mecha, whilst DJ goes to deal with the Final Fantasy Crystal and the Warriors of Light. So pretty much keep hitting that crystal, but whatever you do, do not let those don't let those warriors touch the ground. It says like if you just want them in the air, you can take them out, no problem. Oh yeah, if you let them touch the ground, they like to block. And they like to block a lot. And that could be a problem. Early on, it's not so bad, but when it gets towards the end of the crystal, it can be a pain, and DJ handling it no problem there. In the meantime, Eric's going through with the Mecha Dragon. I believe he's just finished round 2. So looking to take him out in 3.
Very close.
Oh, getting it. It was close there. Unfortunately, probably just a little short on the magic part, but that was a good attempt at getting a 3-rounder. But he should be good to set up for a 4-round. As mentioned, respectable cycle to be able to match him on.
Oh, no.
Oh, no!
You got
he got away at least. Oh, that was scary.
Trying to throw a shuriken or
snipe in there.
You can hit him when he's moving up and down like that. It's obviously hard and dangerous. The Mecha Dragon fight can go off the rails for any number of reasons because it's really a lot to manage. You're managing standing on top of the platforms. You're trying to recoup your SP. You're also trying to deal with strategically waiting to charge up the blaster because I don't know if we haven't mentioned it this race. I don't know if we've actually mentioned it in past as well. The charged blaster has 3 different levels of shot, and it actually has like a little meter on it that builds up over time. So you're looking to kind of balance getting the SP, which means you're using those shots, which means the blaster isn't charging, and all of a sudden that does less damage to Mecha Dragon. The platforms are RNG themselves. Like, there's just so much going on.
Indeed. At this point, DJ decided to switch out for the E-Field. It's a very good defensive tool to have. He does take a couple of hits, unfortunately, within this boss Vessel Defense, but gets through in 1 cycle, which is what you're looking to do, ideally. Hopefully you can get through the fight without taking damage, but sometimes it can just get a little offhand. But there's 1 or 2 things at this point after Mecha Dragon that the runners generally try to go for, or tend to try to keep in mind. Now, you've already got the gun purchased if you choose to purchase it for Mecha Dragon, so you could try and take that all the way, but ideally you want to take either that or the E-Field into the next chapter, because there's a part of the chapter, there's 2 parts of the chapter where you can use that item to actually skip out a certain bit of segments of the actual chapter. Getting the first skip could save anywhere from 20 to 25 seconds. The second one, I believe, in and around the 15-second mark. So in total, there's close to 40 seconds worth of time save if you're able to carry the weapon all the way through. It's a lot harder than it sounds, for sure. But there's a couple of different approaches on how you do it. The gun will give you more of an offensive approach for Chapter 5, but the E-Field will give you far better defensive options, as once the energy field is out, any projectile that goes towards you will be automatically blocked by it. So that's just a lot less projectile aspects that you have to worry about. And Chapter 5 has a lot of projectiles, to be fair, so it certainly becomes a helpful and very useful choice to take into Chapter 5 for going for the skiff.
Yeah, in addition to like the mecha wall turrets and then even like the purple walls, you're dealing with things like this eyeball that has it. All the enemies themselves have projectile attacks. Like everything in this stage is basically a purple projectile.
Indeed. Fortunately, as well, on Eric's side, he just dealt with his vessel defense. So you've been seeing those 6 orbs. You take them down, then you start wailing on the door. He executed that very well, actually. He got very close to getting a 1 cycle without damage there, so that was a highly executed fight. He's going to have 2 points of health on his E-field, so that's going to give him a good advantage to try and carry the weapon as far as he can. So that's going to be good news for him as he picks up his next upgrade, which we failed to mention with DJ, the parry. So the parry is very vital. It's quite an important tool in the speed run. Bit akin to certain fighting games that hold a parry system. I tend to compare it to Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, where you press towards the projectile and you can block it, and then if you sword swipe it, you can parry it back to the opposing opponents to cause more damage, and that becomes very useful in dealing high damage to a number of bosses.
The DJ unfortunately lost it to the last purple barrier just before the final door leading to this section. And they only had 1 hit on the barrier, so unfortunately that kind of they were playing it very cautiously too. Like they threw some shurikens and whatnot. Maybe even went outside the norm of their strats because they saw that they could get the skip, and maybe that caused it. But we'll see if Erix gets it, because if Erix gets it, then it's gonna be a chance to make up like a good 25 seconds here.
Indeed, on that, yeah, I can understand him playing it cautious due to
that one's on
only
me.
having 1 hit left. Yep, that one's on you. That's just going to be the motif of the tournament. Should we, whenever we get to grand finals, no commentators. How's that?
It's hard to commentate on what's happening because the second you do, it changes, and sometimes it's just going to be for the worse. So we're all going to have to get used to that.
I'm just going to say it's down to coincidence, mainly because I've been commentating on all 3 races, and it's probably going to be linked back to me otherwise. So I'm just going to say it's coincidence. Yeah, unfortunately losing the weapon, so they won't be able to get the skip advantages for time. But that won't be the end of the run. The fortunate thing with this game, although it is a throwback to the old school games of the 80s and 90s of the difficult genre, stuff like Ninja Gaiden being a good example, it does have some modern aesthetics. There's no life system in play. There's a number of checkpoints in the stages. So as long as you keep going, your run cannot effectively be outright killed unless you choose to kill it yourself. So that's always a nice thing there. It's also a nice thing for casually as well, because you can keep plodding at it and you will get through it. In the meantime, DJ taking on probably one of my personal favourite bosses to execute in the I forgot his name. Subject Alpha. There we go. So first boss where the parry is a pretty important tool. Being able to parry those projectiles back into him can cause some heavy damage. In an ideal world, if you can execute the fight well, he goes down very quickly. But it's a tricky thing to get everything timed out correctly. But there's a nice fight there on DJ's side. Took quite a bit of damage, so he's going to have to play a little cautious here. And opting to take the safety health in the top corner there. A wise decision. Otherwise, I would send you back to the last checkpoint, and that can cause a good amount of time loss as he'll continue on forward here. There's another bit of safety health that he can grab along the way here as well if he thinks he needs it, but he's got pretty much max health, so he might be okay without it. And he's all good. Eric's in the meantime just having his first little encounter with Alpha where he just crunches him down to size. And a good little advantage you could take there by intentionally tanking your damage down to 1, because Alpha will always knock you down to 1 point of health, no matter what, when you get there. So it just saves the time of having to wait for him crunching your health down. Saves a few seconds, but from max health, it would probably save you 3 seconds to just tank yourself down to 1, then leaving yourself on full health, for example.
On to Alpha 2.
On to Alpha 2. Here becomes a big mess on the wall. DJ's actually employing a strategy that you don't see too many runners do, but it is a good decision to make. Takes a little bit of additional time just for the setup, but by doing the parry and pulling away, he's making sure his sword does not connect with the eye, so the projectile itself will hit back. The projectile will actually do 2 points of damage, 3 points of damage, I think, rather than the sword's 2 point of damage. Wow, I can't count today. So it just gets that extra bit of damage to finish him off quickly. It was a nice done fight there. Didn't quite get the one rounder, but got his health down very nicely, and ensured to make sure that one thing you don't do when he gets to the midpoint of that fight, if you hit his eye too soon, it will lock out the eye throughout the remainder of that phase, and you lose a lot of damage as a result. So you're intentionally delaying them, then going for the offense, then you may able to just melt him down. So good performance there on DJ's side, as he's now going to get the final upgrade as it comes to this front half of the run, as we will now get the second portion, which is a lot more chaotic, shall we put it.
Little nuance too. DJ tossed the shuriken before going into this section, so the gate is already open.
Indeed. It's something you can do. Costs a little bit of time at first, but then again, you're probably losing that time anyway if you wait anyway. So it's kind of a runner's choice aspect, but we now have the dash, and this has its own SP or offensive property to it in the form of this sword slashing dash, which helps to speed up the run, as well as depends on whether it's powered up or not. If you got SP for it, then it'll knock you further. You can keep your run momentum going, and for every enemy and crate you destroy, or basically anything you destroy with it but successfully, will replenish that SP that you spent on using it to actually do the attack. So spend an SP, get an SP. Effectively, you can keep it chaining throughout in certain points of the run. So SP management becomes far more important at this point of the run onwards.
Eric's also done with Alpha 2. Eric's actually had 2 damageless Alpha fights. The Alpha 1 fight was a tiny bit conservative, but was really well executed, and did not take damage on either fight. So, shoutouts to that. That was nice and clean.
Very nicely done. Also, nice pogo strats from DJ there. He was out of SP entering that room, and that room can be a little finicky without it. But employing some pogo methods there was a nice backup play on his part. So that'll keep him going forward. Unfortunately, can't quite make it to there before the gates closed on him, but that'll do. So with chapter 6, this is the first chapter where the whole dash tank or the dash methodology comes into play, and how it kind of sets the tone for what the rest of the run is going to employ. Did you notice there's these red bars, barriers there that can set off the security system, bunch of enemies show up, as well as the big massive saw blade that can rip your health off in an instant if you let it. Sometimes it is just quicker to just trigger it off and use the enemies to your advantage. Other times it's best just to leave the security alone. In this instance, using dash cancel technique, unfortunately does take a bit of a bump there, so he's going to have to go back to the last checkpoint. But dash cancelling by after you do your dash slash, if you hit the run button directly after, it will cancel out of the slash rather than having to wait the slow animation of the dash at the end. It'll allow you to start dashing much sooner than you would normally. Second time through, gets through it very nicely, as he'll get onto the tunnel cleaner. So tunnel cleaner, or as I like to call him now because of a friend of mine, Mecha Birkin, for anyone who knows Resident Evil. You can follow the same pattern. You're using his projectile to your advantage by getting them parried out and then hitting them back in, and cause some great damage. With these type of projectiles, the longer you leave them, the smaller they become, and the smaller they become, the less damage they will actually do. So being able to manipulate the fight in such a way where you can get those projectiles strike back into him as soon as you can will help to bring the pacing of the fight just more into your advantage. When you get to a certain point, you'll have double bombs that will come in. But with the exception of that, may miss one or two things he's going for, but other than that, it was a respectable fight. Got through without taking a death, and to be fair, I haven't really noticed many deaths so far in this run, in all fairness. So, as I say, Erix isn't that far behind him, probably half a chapter behind at this point. So this is still anybody's ball game. Just taking it a little conservative on Eric's side. He's going to have to wait out a cycle a little bit, but just saves him getting potential death there. As we got chapter 7 on DJ's side. So this chapter can be quite the pain at times. This is usually quite the run killer at first. Mainly having to deal with these wall snakes here. You're able to just manipulate it in such a way and parry the bullets back into and take them down so you can progress forward. But if you don't like the first door, you're not going to like the second door that'll be coming up momentarily, because it's they decided, well, it was quite simple really. I mean, just one door snake, one platform, you're all good, right? That's just the warm-up for the next one, where not only do you have 3 platforms, they're moving and it's above a bed of spikes. So be prepared.
I think for me, these walls were the first instance where I really took note of the fact that when you parry a slash, and I don't think we've actually noted this until now, when you parry a bullet, you can actually upward slash the orb that's remaining, and the slash will go upwards. And generally, parried attacks do a lot more than your regular attacks in a lot of scenarios. So in the first wall especially, you can really make use of, if the bottom section starts to fire, you can parry it when you're standing below the headpiece. You can parry it upwards to it, and it works really effectively as well. Some people will also use the upwards parry on a later boss in Chapter 10 as well, but it's a neat little feature that I think probably went underappreciated for a little while.
Yeah, it's fair. I mean, it's something I've known about. It's just something I don't end up using in a run in general very often. But it's good knowledge to have, because, as you say, if you could manipulate the bullets from the bottom ends of those and take advantage of them. So the more knowledge, the better, for sure.
One thing that's good about Cyber Shadow really is, like, there's definitely an optimal way to do a room, as you would expect, but there's probably also like a dozen other ways that you can do the same room almost as quickly. So there's a lot of like flexibility and preference in there that you can kind of layer in strats at your own pace and how you prefer to do so. We saw DJ got hung up with the skulls there a little bit. We've noted in a few earlier races that those poison skulls tend to be a little bit treacherous.
Yeah, I've just noticed in chat someone saying, did I say melt them down? Probably. Fight me. That's a bit of a throwback to our days with Shantae. So he doesn't like it when we melt him down, so he's just having a go at me for that. Sorry, couldn't resist. Alright.
Next we're going to find out this whole thing is the work of Tinkerbats.
Oh god, no. Do enough with them. I must say, it's bad enough that I've seen a number of reminders from different Shantae games that have a part of it, at least from experience wide. We have a climb. Fortunately, not as hard as this one, as Cyber Shadow's climb, gratefully. And the boat. Granted, that's the other way around. The boat in Shantae is a lot more than annoyance. But
shoutouts to Mekacity for putting in a lot of like throwbacks to other games. Like, we obviously won't see them in the run, you won't see them in the duration of this tournament, but there's a lot of like secret little Easter egg rooms that reference different classic games that we all grew up and enjoyed and stuff.
It's true, if you know where to look and if you happen to find them, then yeah, there's quite a number of little nuances from games have passed, and even to one or two certain memes that have been around.
DJ coming up on the ultimate power.
Indeed. So good old Dragon here. I could never remember the guy's name, so forgive me. But this is the point where Dragon's going to take all of your upgrades that you've obtained throughout your run and power them all up. There is a number of things that he does for you, but we only care about one thing: the double jump. There are a couple of things that it pretty much gives you advantage by being able to charge up all of your attacks. You can charge up your sword for an additional point of damage. You could charge up your shuriken to turn it into an explosive kunai, and so on and so forth. But the one thing the main thing that becomes very useful in the run, especially in combination with the dash slashing, is that double jump. Effectively, once you successfully slash into an enemy when in the air and take them down, it will replenish your jump, so you could effectively, as long as you have the chain of enemies for it and at least a couple of SP to operate with, you could just stay in the air forever. And we'll get a first little instance of it here as DJ goes into Chapter 8. So this is pretty much where the game goes. Right, we've given you everything you got, we've taught you everything we can, now it's time to test your mettle.
Yeah, it's so strange because like the last chapter really feels like it pulls no punches, and then you get to this chapter and you're like, oh, especially casually speaking, like I think a lot of us note that in the run it really picks up once you hit chapter 7. But once you get all of your abilities and then you hit this chapter, you want to use them, and you're going to be very inclined to try and go fast, and until you know how to go fast, you're going to die a lot. And that's just what Cyber Shadow is as you learn, and as long as you can kind of get past that initial hurdle, it's extremely rewarding.
Yeah, I mean, I was guilty of that. I got to this point, I got to that first couple of rooms, like in my casual play, and I took a number of deaths because the speedrunner in me came out and was like, I wonder what we could do here. I just kept trying to do things faster. It's like, you shouldn't really be doing this. But it's a lot of fun to be able to execute a lot of the techniques, especially in this second half of the run. But to be fair, make no mistake about it, the front half is still a lot of fun from the technical platforming side of things. But yeah, if you prefer more high-octane aspects, then this second half is pretty much where it's at. But it comes at a price of, well, it hurts. It takes quite a bit to get used to. Dealing with the second mech system there, or cyber system, and that's going to give him access to Exo, which is this nice, lovely talking bike, and this becomes our next bit of an auto-scroller, so just don't crash is pretty much all you need to know. As for Erix, getting done with his dragon, getting his upgrades in, so he's going to start making his way up and out and into chapter 8, where he can begin his part. So again, the both runners not really that far apart in general. I mean, it could be a death or two could easily change the tide of the. Oh Jesus, DJ, you scared me with that.
I know you said it, and like I saw the angle of that jump, and I was like, oh no, it's gonna happen.
Reminds me of a swag jumping after any hero for a moment. It frightened me. It was so far doing so good in with his auto-scroller. In the meantime, Eric's unfortunately taking a bit of a plunge there, so he's going to be sent back to the beginning of the chapter. Fortunately, his SP position is still good, so he doesn't have to worry about picking up a backup SP replenishment. He's going to keep his finances in the same spot. Oh no! It looks like he might be caught in a little bit of his F cycle. Hopefully he will get out of it soon.
Yeah, I find Chapter 8 is like infamous for death loops, especially this section. It's just like, it's so easy to just get tilted, and these purple, pink flames, whatever you want to call them, last far too long, and these little spikes can kind of throw you off your game, and once you get a little bit off, this chapter can easily become a nightmare.
Indeed. To be fair, if there's any chapter that's prone to potentially getting into death cycles, it is chapter 8. There's a number of spots where, as we say, you could just take one simple mistake could change the entirety of the entire section. And to be fair, that is true throughout the majority of the run, but it becomes much more apparent the further you go into the game and into the run. And as we say, it's difficult from the start all the way to this point, but it just keeps getting harder and harder. And then you go grey. Or in my case, I've already been grey, so I'm quite fortunate for that. I don't have to worry about getting any worse.
Oh, DJ, no. That spot is right before a checkpoint, and I don't know if it's nerves because you can see the checkpoint just like hanging out there. But yeah, that wall tends to be a tricky spot, and if you get there without SP and you don't take these enemies out because you don't have SP, even when you do the slash, you don't seem to kill them. Green guys come back, and it can be a nightmare. Aforementioned checkpoint here coming up. Yee, there we go.
Alright, so Exo gets to return back, and this time he is a mech. So, nice bit of a mech section. Depends how our runners want to play this. Given the race format, they may take it a little bit safer, but you can kind of map it out in a way where you know which enemies you're going to get hit by intentionally and which ones you want to take out and avoid, so you can save the most amount of time. DJ's taking quite a number of hits, so he's probably going to have to take it a little safer here now.
Yeah.
His health's gone right a bit down, so he's probably... I can't quite make out how much health he's got. I think he's got 2 bars there, so... or 1 or 2 bars, so he's going to have to take these enemies out, which is usually ideal to...
No.
Oh! He tried to jump over it. Unfortunately, there, that doesn't, even when you go for those 2 enemies firing, to be fair, it's not often that that guy will have enough time to fire off a bomb that quick, so that's quite a rarity there. He tried to get out of it, tried to get away from it, but unfortunately just got caught up, so he's going to have to go back again. It's going to give Erix a chance to catch back in. As I say, no matter the run-up, this game is just, it's one of them games that's very easy to take a death at any moment.
And this is one of those sections too that it's so easy to just go fly by night and not think about it, but the second you actually have to think about your health and you start doing that mental math about what deboost you can actually take, because I don't know about you, but like I autopilot this and whatever happens, like I know I'm fine, but the second I take one hit that I didn't intend on, I wonder if I should then be taking the next hit or which one I should not be taking, and that usually leads to worse things.
Yeah, to be fair, it's kind of the same here. I tend to just sort of go into an autopilot. I know which ones I'm going to get caught by. I know how I'm going to maneuver, and I just sort of do it. As time has gone on, though, fortunately, dependent on if an extra enemy does hit me, I'll have an idea of where my health is, and I kind of know then which one to just sort of not go for the tank on and just destroy. And when I get a moment, I'll just have a quick look at my health and just determine it. But to be fair, it is quite easy to miscalculate at that point, because your brain is then racking about, okay, what about this, what about that? And that could lead to just having a miss input and, well, you get sniped at that point.
Oh, Eric's with the clip through
nice one,
the
Eric.
wall.
And that was,
I saw that earlier
as well.
Great to see that was intentional. I happened to be watching Eric's practice just before the race, as I was kind of getting everything set up and I was getting the runner streams up, and I saw them do that. And it's a piece of tech that was originally thought to be patched out, and Mecha did intend to patch it out in 1.03, and then it still works. You can't seem to do it through 2 tile gap walls anymore, but single tile walls you can still clip through. So that was really neat to see. I'm glad we got to showcase that.
Yeah, taking advantage of that little glitch there. If you're able to do a slash dash in through an enemy whilst they're overlapping that tile, you just go through the wall. And to be fair, that's something I wouldn't mind looking back at to have an understanding of how to manipulate it, so I can at least get it more get it consistently. But I haven't quite looked at it yet for myself, but it's very nice to pull off. It does save a good couple of seconds depending on how well the segment goes. So it'll all doing well. DJ, that's an intentional death for sure. You always get knocked down to 1 health by this point. Couple of things, if you got the extra cash, you could just get your health finished at the checkpoint. Some runners choose to exit back to the main menu and then re-enter the file. Others will just run into the first enemy they can just to get themselves back with at least some health, because when we talk death cycles, this is one of the toughest rooms to get through, at least at first. Get more used to it once you get the understanding of how to work your patterns and where everything is going to be, but it still doesn't change the fact that one slight mistake and there's a good possibility that you're going to get taken down. DJ, though, pretty much making a clinic on that, and
did
no
not
issue.
trip the alarms.
Nice one on this side.
Got the safety health, didn't trip the alarms. A really nice use of the pogo to get over the last laser in the first half. Carefully waited out the second laser, which was worth it in the end. Very nicely done.
Indeed, Eric's now done with his segment with EXO, so he's going to be coming up to that part himself. So there's only a handful of rooms separating our runners here, so both keeping up again very nicely. So like you said, you knew this was going to be a close race, and you weren't wrong.
It's kind of a neat crossroads too, because like it's chapter 8, but you come back through other chapters. Like this is obviously chapter 3. It's been changed a little bit. Chapter 8's unique in the sense that like you get to do this whole little recap back through some sections, and you encounter all of these little enemies and types of environmental things that you've seen before. So it's a nice little kind of like mashup before we get to some more new stuff.
Yep, that is indeed. Notice DJ tried to go for the under method there. were using that bot enemy. Unfortunately, he jumped just a little too high and got a bit caught. Fortunately, he made aware of it and was able to rectify the situation, saving him taking a death. And with that being said, flies through the remainder of Chapter 8. He's now pretty much coming to the end of it, and we're making his way into Chapter 9. Eric's making his way through the death room. Pretty much no problem. I don't know if he took a death there. Unfortunately, I missed it if he did, but it looked like he got through it quite nicely from what I can tell.
Yeah, they did activate the alarms in that same room, but did get through without issue, which was nice to see.
Indeed, both runs getting through without death. It's not an easy room to get through. Say literally, it just takes one tiny little thing to go out of place, and that's it. It can ruin the entirety of your method. That's a DJ entering Chapter 9 now. This one of the shorter chapters in the run doesn't make it any more easier, though, as it could still be a right nightmare to get through as we get these lockout rooms here. And well, Mecha Tank's back. Well, a part of him at least. Doesn't tend to stand much of a chance. So you got 2 lockout rooms. You got to take out everything in the room before you can progress. DJ having no problems whatsoever there as he gets on to the next stretch. Using these aerial dashes to advantage, as mentioned, replenishes the double jump, keeps him in the air consistently. Gets through nicely, runs out of SP. Fortunately, SP not as important for this end part, but it would be nice to have.
Yeah, he whiffed on one of those enemies. He still got his dash through, but he kind of whiffed through the top of one of those enemies, which can happen. You can definitely clip through an enemy when you do a dash, and the end result was he ended up 1 SP short as a result.
Ooh. Indeed.
All right.
He got through nicely though, and Eric's also getting through. A little bit scary there, but gets through without much resistance. His health is a bit low, and using an example of the explosive kunais, it turns out with these barriers you're able to use an explosive kunai to destroy the barrier at any point rather than hitting the intended switch. So good knowledge and using his SP to his advantage there. As DJ now has the boat, and well, the boat sucks. I'm just gonna say it. But it all comes down to one sort of things. I mean, this is basically an auto scroller in its own right. You pretty much have to wait for the enemies to come out and take them out accordingly. The fortunate thing is the enemies will always follow the same pattern and will always spawn in the same manner and fashion. Look at the background of the sky. You get these little bits of light that fly out in the background. That indicates when the enemy's coming, as well as which side of the screen it's going to approach on. I believe that's a little bit of a nod to the Shinobi series on the Mega Drive or the Genesis, depends on which part of the world you're in. So you can use that to your advantage and be able to go through it. But the biggest annoyance of the boat is literally a bit of RNG. For whatever reason, there's a determination of whether or not you're going to get one of 2 things when the section is done. You're either going to get a fast boat or you're going to get a slow boat. And it's 10 seconds, roughly 10 second difference between each of them. And not exactly sure what exactly triggers it. We've got some belief that it could be similar to the original Mario Brothers, where it's down to frame rule. There's another theory that we're currently testing out, where it's a determination of how quick you take out the final enemy of the segment to determine whether or not you get a fast or long, but we're not 100% on that yet.
That was one long boat.
It looked like he got a long boat, though, unfortunately. So, yeah. Boat be a pain, as we'll go into Chapter 10. We're going to take the SP dispenser at this point, because Chapter 10, as we say, this is pretty much where it all comes together. Pain, suffering, and let's just start off with a boss in the form of Combinatron. So Combinatron, pretty much just wail on him. You get these missiles that fly out. You can get positioning and parry on him to score some additional damage. But essentially, you just want to absolutely raid on him. You do have to be a little bit careful. If you try and do too much damage too soon, or if you take too long in the middle of the fight, he can heal himself at a certain point. And once he starts doing that, it's pretty much an unwinnable fight. Because every time you start to then deal damage afterwards, he's just going to keep healing, and he just won't go down.
Yeah, that was really close. Like, the majority of the fight was spot on, but DJ took a couple shots. It was a little tight. And whiffed on them. He got hit by one of the flames that shoot from the hands, and unfortunately that nerfed a little bit of the damage, but thankfully was able to finish off that fight without issue before the healing began. Oh.
Yeah, fortunately, if you do manipulate the first part of the fight, so it forces him into see because he works. It's all like once he starts an attack, he's going to finish that attack kind of thing, and it does take a bit of time. So if you're able to manipulate it so his next attack is not the heal, then you do have a little bit of leniency in terms of getting him down before the heal, but not a big window. So they're able to take advantage of that. Unfortunately, getting death cycled here, this is one of the more awkward rooms to get through at speed. There is a safety where you can actually go over the top of those sky platforms, but that is a part that can easily get you caught in a death cycle for a bit. But using these dashes to advantage saves using what was intended, which is these platforms that move ridiculously slow. So as speedrunners, we don't want that. So we slash dash through everything to get across. Eric's got to deal with his combinatron using a combination of slashes and rising fire. And goes for the parries on the missiles. Gets one of them at least, so gets a good amount of damage. The healing's about to come up. Oh, there it is, unfortunately. So Combinatron is likely to keep healing. Wise choice to just take the death at that point. It's a wise decision. If he does end up healing, we say it's very unlikely you're going to be able to take him down, at least in any quick fashion. So you're probably better off just taking the intentional death and reattempting the fight.
Worth noting too, Eric's did get fast boat.
Nice.
Very
I
clean
did miss that, unfortunately,
too.
but a nice second round with Combinatron. He'll deal with his final part is the bulk of Chapter 10. Apart from that bit of death cycle DJ had, it looked like a pretty decent Chapter 10. He now takes on the Spider Rail. He's going with the flame technique. It turns out you can actually hit Spider Rail off the screen. But the idea is you want to try and manipulate it to a point where you get to this kind of part of the fight and keep his eye open so you can score heavy damage. Otherwise, it'll be a case of you can only really get one strike at a time. And usually we'll use the charge slash just to deal a bit more damage. But we get into this point, you may be able to parry the strikes back into him. Looks like Spider Rail's giving him just a little bit of trouble here. He's very low in health as well, so he's going to have to play a bit cautiously.
Yeah, he tried the charge parries on the group of rings there, but unfortunately one of the small eyes was still left alive, and when that happens, it throws off the targeting of the particles from the charge parry there, and instead they all opted to attack the small eye, doing effectively nothing.
Yeah, that is an unfortunate thing. Eric's now going for that low save method as DJ did, getting through alright as he continues on his quest to get through Chapter 10. And DJ now has the climb. So the climb, there's 3 rooms to it. The first room, when we talk about how painful the climb can be, we're usually talking about the very first room. As we've said throughout the run, making a mistake or making one tiny mistake could alter everything that goes on within that room. This is pretty much the pinnacle of it all. There are so many floating enemies around and about, and they try and home and track you. I tend to look at it as like they're kind of button reading you or input reading you, so they kind of know where you're going to be going, and they can always get in the way once one mistake happens, making this segment a complete pain in the backside. But yeah, unfortunately, it did take a bit of a mishap, but it looks like he's getting himself repositioned, remanipulating the scenes to play to the new advantage, and gets up there without it taking a death or losing the greatest amount of time. So it's a nice recovery on his part. He deals with the final 2 rooms of the climb before approaching the final sets of bosses, which is going to come in a pack of 3. A nice throwback to Ninja Gaiden, or to people anyone who's played Ninja Gaiden generally knows, like with the older games, that they tend to make the final boss in 3 forms, or at least there's going to be 3 parts of the fight. And this follows the same suit. So you've got 1 health meter to take out all 3 fights, otherwise you go back to the beginning of the track. First up will be the apparator as he makes his return. We're just going to sort of just take advantage of the dash slash to deal heavy damage straight away, just getting him at least under half. Wait for him to come back in, and then he'll be looking to finishing him off any moment now. And nicely done for the first phase. Didn't even give him a chance to maneuver anywhere else. That was a solid start. In the meantime, Eric's he did use that example that you mentioned earlier about using the upward slash within a parry to knock the projectile up during that fight. Nice train of thought there to take advantage of the parry that he managed to succeed on. Spider Rail going down pretty nicely, and he'll be coming up to his climb now.
Yeah, I'd never seen that one. That was pretty sweet.
In the meantime, DJ dealing with Progenitor Phase 2. Takes him down nicely. Progenitor 2 likes to stay in the center and always hides himself in his shield. Just have to hit the shield and then just deal as much damage as you can, manipulating some of the fire fields to your advantage, or at least to keep them out of your way. Going into the final phase, the 3 giant orbs that are on him, you're looking to take out the 2, the one at the bottom and the one at the left. That gives him the blue orb and red orb. The blue orb will allow him a shield that'll protect him. The red one will allow him a swiping slash or a projectile in order to score good damage to him, to the boss. We intentionally leave the third one there so we can use it to pogo off and deal more damage to Progenitor by getting multiple strikes at once. And that is that on DJ's side. He has effectively completed the run, but he's not quite finished yet. He's just got to get the master out of her containment, and then he will be good and done with the run. As Erix is finishing up or getting through his climb, he's gotten through the first room very nicely. Looked like he had a little bit of trouble, but he managed to get through well. Just now climbing up the second room, and one final room before he has his 3 fights. And then we're pretty much good. And like you said, to be fair, this wasn't the race wasn't too far apart from one another. They were pretty much within the same chapters through at all points of the run. So very good performance on both runners' side. But unless DJ happens to soft lock the run at this point, I think DJ is going to go on to win this one.
I'm surprised you had the...
If he does now, this is on me, and I'm just going to walk away.
I was like, I'm surprised you had the confidence to say that.
Well, yeah. I'm a crazy person, so I am stupid enough to say things like that, to be fair.
Yeah, no, that was a really clean final fight. Good job to both of our runners and putting together a really, really great race front to back. Deaths can happen to anybody. And I think at the end of the day, these are 2 times that both of our racers are going to end up being very happy with, especially in comparison to their respective PBs.
That is going to be time on DJ's side, so that is GG for DJ, as he will advance to round 2. And Erix is only on Progenitor 2, so he really wasn't that far behind, as we said. They've kept up very nicely, so it's been a very, very good challenging race between the 2. Trying to use the parries there with the flame, manipulating it into position to take advantage of scoring some more additional damage. Fortunately got a little bit away, but he can just finish him off and have a couple of slashes, and that'll be Progen 2 down. Well, Progen down for going to Progen 2. And again, he'd be looking just to take out the 2 orbs, one at the bottom for the blue shield and one at the right for the red beam. And again, leaving that one on the left there so we can use it in the second part of the fight when Progen goes up into the sky. You could use some program methods. Unfortunately, stream's stuttering on my end just at the moment. It looks like he is, though. And yep. So using that power just to melt him down in the center there before getting to the next part or the end part. Nice timing there to get double strikes up on the red. And just needs to get up there now just to get the last 2 strikes in. 1 more to go, and that will be pretty much the game, set and match for Erix. Nicely done on his part. He'll just be going down to release the master from her shell, and she'll be all good.
And we have DJ here joining us post-race. Congrats.
Hello?
Oh, Discord might be doing Discord things.
Oh no.
Oh, I saw the ring light up for a moment.
Okay, yeah, now it should work. Yeah.
Hey, there he is.
No.
Welcome.
Welcome, DJ. Congratulations. You're successfully into round 2.
Yeah.
How did that run feel to you?
Really tense. I was like tensed up the whole time. And I didn't have anything open, not my own timer, not the stream, not anything. So I didn't know how Erix was doing either. And I just popped in Tricer's stream and I saw he was just right behind me. So
Yeah, to be fair, it's been pretty much like that through the bulk of the run. Like the first 4 chapters, you were pretty much like a room apart. Then it became like 2 or 3 rooms. But after that, it was pretty much like that throughout the rest of it. Literally through and through. So it was a good contested race. Managed to hold up ahead of him and take the victory.
yeah.
He's now just releasing the master from her cage. And momentarily we will be calling on time, and that is that. And Eric's finishing off there, 107.06 on the screen. I don't know about the race time GG time. Can you be able to confirm that one?
Race time GG is 107.07.2.
And nicely done. Again, both runners running very close within their PBs, putting on a good show for you. Throw your GGs up in the chat. Show your support. That was a nice contested match. So yeah, as I say, we did notice with your one, and there was a couple of points where you did get caught up in a couple of death cycles, but outside of that, you managed to hold your own and get through a majority of this run without too much incident. So, I'm gonna say it's a good opening start to the tournament for you, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
DJ might be experiencing mic issues again. At the moment, we've brought Erix in. Congratulations on your finish as well. It was a very close race.
How is it I'm the only one whose mic's not fucking working for me? So I almost swear again.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I had my Discord muted, so no
there we go.
alerts would pop up, so I wasn't hearing you.
No, that's okay. I appreciate that. You know, we do prefer our races without Discord notifications. Really great race between the two of you. How did you feel coming out at the end of that?
Coming at the end, I didn't feel super great.
It looks like you had a pretty rough chapter 10 in comparison. I know that you were seeing some green splits by the looks of things. I know pre-race when I was peeking in as well, you had some pretty spicy paces. So it feels like a PB is imminent and may happen in the next few days, or maybe perhaps the next race we see from you. I think it's just a matter of times by the looks of it.
Hope so.
And to be fair, we both, as we were saying with DJ as well, you were both pretty much within each other. As I say, through a good portion of the first part of the run, you was only like a screen apart. Then there was a few screen separation, but when it goes, you got to like 2 screens, maybe 3 screen separation. You're pretty much keeping up with each other throughout the entirety of the race. So very good performance on both of you.
Thanks. Yeah, I thought this was going to be a real good race.
You didn't disappoint, I can assure you of that. And with that being said, unfortunately, though, as you're not out, though, you will go into the loser's bracket or the second chance bracket, whatever you'd like to call it. And you'll be awaiting one of 3 potential opponents. Unfortunately, we will not know exactly who he could be against because the match that's going to lead up to him, the part of the brackets, he could be up against either Messiah Rambu or one of the 2 runners that we have coming up this weekend, the Big K or the Inkito, because the winner of that match will go on to meet up with Messiah, and the loser from that match then will go into the bracket to meet up with Erix. So until those matches happen, we won't quite know. As for DJ, you get to win as the winner. You get to move on to round 2, and you've got me.
Yeah, that's gonna be a challenge, sure.
Believe you me, I don't underestimate no one. So until the race is done, it's not settled. So go in there, come over, kick my backside in. I'll be waiting for you. Trust me, I always like to have people going with confidence, because as I say, it doesn't matter what's on the boards. It's what happens on the day that counts. You're not out until you're out.
Yeah, I'm not going in with the mindset that I've already lost. I'm definitely in it to win it. As slim as my chances are.
Good on you. Good on you. I like to hear.
Anyone can have Cyber Shadow happen, and when Cyber Shadow happens, boy, does it tend to happen.
Oh, indeed it does.
Maybe I should commentate that race myself, so I can try and throw some cursed turkeys way for all of the gifts he's been giving out.
What else can I say to that? I can't even argue it, to be fair. So, if it happens, it happens, and to be fair, I'll be fine with it. I can accept it.
So, any last
yep.
comments from our two racers today? Anything else that you'd like to say before we part ways today?
Well, I've had fun. It was a fun race, and I look forward to all the other races in the tournament.
It was a good race, and I look forward to the next one.
Indeed, as it is double elimination, both runners are still in it, and as DJ said, we're in it to win it, and we'll see how that goes. Otherwise, with that being said, just to throw out there, if you like what you saw, we've still got a lot more tournament to go. We'll be staying here at twitch.tv/Strides86, so please be sure to follow him over here and continue to watch the tournament. I know he has other things that he posts going through marathons and other tournaments and other showcases. So if you like those kind of things, be sure to throw your follows there. Also, be sure to follow both our runners here today, twitch.tv/ThaDJ and /Erix33. And, you know, have a good time. Both good runners of the game, both done very well. And I need to breathe between sentences.
Don't forget to follow Turkey619, my co-commentator as well. And if you guys want more Cyber Shadow, of course, we've got a couple more upcoming races. We're going to have the end of round one. The last round one match is going to be Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Atlantic between the Big K1 and Diane Keto. And then Monday, we have the first of many round two matches booked, which is going to be 2C Plus versus Kyle Berry. Kyle Berry, a very new runner and up-and-comer, but has been putting down some really incredible times. Your guys are not going to want to miss that one because, as we said, Cyber Shadow can happen, and that's bound to be a good race too.
Very true on that, and we'll have the remaining round two matches booked as and when we can, and that'll be something I'll be talking through with DJ soon. Obviously, I'll give you a moment to relax for the rest of your evening, though, of course. As I say, we've still got one more round, one match to determine the opponent for the number 3C Messiah Rambo. And I believe with that being said, I've got nothing else to add. So we're all good. Strider, if you'd like to close us up, you'll be more than, yeah.
Alrighty.
Words are hard.
Thanks for hanging out, all. Thanks again for the help and everyone participating. Thanks everyone in chat for supporting the stream. Thanks everyone for the raids, the hosts, the follows, the subs, all of that generosity. And I will actually most likely be back a little bit later tonight myself, but race time, I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a good night, all.